Hi, everybody. I am Carissa Turway, and I am so excited you guys are going to join us today. We're going to give another couple minutes just so you guys know we're going to have a question and answer session at the end of this class, and then we'll be able to put you guys' mics on so that we all can have a discussion and go over these, this sometimes confusing 2.5D printing that Mimaki has. I'm very happy, and we have a special guest. Her name is Christine Hansen. She is from AMCAD Graphics, and thank you for joining us, Christine. She's going to help us go through this, and she was nice enough to be able to give us the files that we are sharing with you. In the chat, you will see a link where you can go and register, and you will get all of the files, the presentation. These files are print ready. So thank you, Christine. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Christine, and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Christine Hansen. I've been in kind of the production print world for about almost 40 years now. And recently, I think about 4 years ago, moved from Wisconsin here to Texas and started with AMCAD and work in the demo room and help Chris out with some of the files from Mimaki.
Well, she does a whole lot more than that. She also does the website and a lot of other things. But thank you for joining us today and sharing those classes. And so we'll be talking a little bit more. But these files are amazing, and the 2.5D is amazing technology, and it can be somewhat kind of confusing. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over this presentation at first, which will have a copy of with live links in those files. But we're not going to stay in that. We're just going to go over a few of the basics that's on this presentation. And then we're actually going to go through Photoshop and Illustrator and RasterLink so that you can see how RasterLink deals with different file types and using the 2.5D technology. Also, we're going to show you some tips and tricks in Photoshop and Illustrator, how to make sure you're going to get the results that you're expecting using the 2.5D technology through RasterLink. Several of our machines have the ability to do 2.5D, and we'll be going over that as well. So let's go ahead and we're going to get started. So let me see. So first thing, I don't know if you guys know about the Mimaki customer experience team, but I really like to make sure everybody understands that we are here to support you and help with the education going forward of all of the different technologies and options that we have here at Mimaki. Here is Christine's email address, my email address. Joel Thomas is also with Mimaki USA. He's going to be on this call and helping us out with some question and answers. And then I don't know if you guys know, but we have several different locations here in the United States. And so we have several different customer experience center leaders. We have some in Los Angeles, which is Ernest Contreras and Messiah Zion. We have some people that are in Atlanta, which is where Joel is, along with Melvin and Gabrielle. We have James here with me in Texas, and then Fernando Ramos that is in New Jersey, and then David Palo is taking care of the cold people up there in Canada. So all of these are live links, like I said, that you'll be able to use this. And if you have any questions for us, please feel free to reach out. This is AMCAD, and like I said, Christine does work with AMCAD. And if you'd like to know a little bit about that company and what they have available, as far as buying equipment or other things, please let us know. And of course, there is a link down there at the bottom to their website. Okay, so that kind of covers who AMCAD is and who's going to help you at Mimaki. So what me and Christine really wanted to do is kind of break this down into the different file types because me and Christine have seen a little bit of variations of our expectations depending on the file type. So we're going to give you some suggestions of what we know that work. Um, and we'll just go from there. But that's why we gave you these files so that you'll be able to load them and do some testing and be able to create the amazing prints that Christine was able to pull off with this. And I'll show you guys a little bit later that, and I have some video of some printing. Okay, so as we know, most of us, we understand that we have vector artwork and raster artwork. And for this class, we will be using the Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator to show you this stuff. But I wanted you to know that if you're working with raster images that you're trying to print 2.5D, I suggest that you use a TIFF file. You can also use a JPEG if you would like, but I like the TIFF file because it holds the transparencies. Also, you can also have a full grayscale TIFF for your texture file. So if you're seeing unexpected results with any of your vector or PDFs, or maybe you are working with a PNG, please, it's always best to revert this image in its color state to a raster image and make it a TIFF, save that out, and then start working on your texture and your gray file. Um, and I do, and am aware that Illustrator can export out can export out the TIFF files. But I have seen variations in my artboard when I'm doing that. And I would, the artboard size and the document size of your artwork is critical when you're doing 2.5D, right? Because we want our layers to come down on top of each other perfect. So that's why, we want to show you this workflow today because we know this works and we haven't had issues with using a TIFF or using a PDF. But I want you guys to be aware that between the way that RasterLink deals with a TIFF file or a raster image file is different than what it does when it is using a PDF file. And that's what we're going to go over right now. So this is the 2.5D raster texture file. And these are some of the files that are included in the files that we are giving you. The most important part of this is if you're using the TIFF workflow and you're using raster images, then sometimes your artwork will need to be inverted. The reason why this is the case is because when you're dealing with raster images, the white areas in your grayscale file is going to be the high spots of your print. So you will see, and we'll talk to Christine about it later. Sometimes you'll want to mess with, it depends on what it is, but just understand when you're working with a raster image, a TIFF or a JPEG file, it will follow the white in your file, which is different than a PDF. So if you're working in the PDF format and you're working with vector files, the file does need to be in CMYK format. And then the 2.5D texture file is also in grayscale as the PDF format, but a CMYK grayscale. So we'll go over a little bit more about how to make sure that your vector files are in grayscale and not in a CMYK black. So if your file is vector, also please be aware of the page sizes of the PDFs that you're making. I like setting up one file and then creating separate layers for the color and grayscale files that I have to save out. So this next slide is going to explain exactly what I'm talking about because these are some of the files that you're going to get. So you're going to save out your 2.5D texture grayscale file and bring that into RasterLink, and then you're going as one file, and then you're going to save out the color layer as another file so that you can bring them in separately and then combine them together in RasterLink, which is what we will show in a minute. But what is most important about this is when you're dealing with a PDF, it's exactly opposite of when you're dealing with a raster image. Now, and when you're a PDF format workflow, the highest points will be where the black is in your file. So make sure you're aware of where the artwork is going to, that the artwork is going to define where the build is and where it replaces. So I hope this is just as confusing. No, I'm joking. Yes, it can be somewhat confusing if you don't understand the 2.5D workflow, but that's why we're having this class, so that everybody understands where the difference is and so that we can ensure we're getting the expected results from the printing that we do. Okay, so now let's talk about the machines that can actually use the 2.5D. And I want you to understand that the UCJV330 and all of our printers are going to have specific profiles that are going to be used for the 2.5D textures. And so you're going to be limited in the resolutions that you have. If you see, these are live links at the top on the right about the manual for the UCJV330. And at the bottom, there is a texture 2.5D texture maker guide for the UCJV330 that is a PDF if you would like to download it and read it. So the profiles for the UCJV330 is going to be 1200 by 1200, or you can do it at 1200 by 1800. Make sure that if you bring in your color file and you have your 2.5D file, that the color layer matches the same resolution and pass count as your 2.5D layer file. Clear matte ink is what is going to be used for the UCJV330. It should print your 2.5D layer file and your color file together simultaneously. So if they do not print simultaneously, please go back and check your print settings. Unfortunately, on the UCJB330, it is not like our flatbed machines where you can add layers, additional layers to this artwork. So you cannot add a white plate to these 2.5D prints that are coming off of the UCJB330. I'll show you some prints later that have come off of this machine. It has amazing detail. When it prints, it will have a yellow tint to it, but that clear ink will clear up within the next 48 hours and become optically clear. Remember, the UCJV330 is a roll-to-roll machine, so it uses roll-to-roll material. Sometimes, because of how much ink that we're using on the 2.5D prints, I would suggest that you use a thicker material because of how much ink is being laid down by this profile. I want to let you know that I really love this Dry Tack Retack Clear PET film. Some films, or like this that has a great adhesive on the back of it, it really seems to hold up, that thick layer of clear a lot better than what a thin vinyl would be. So this is what I suggest and I really like. And if you'd like to look at Dry Tack, it's up on the right-hand side. And then the exact material that I use is down on the left-hand side. If you'd like to click that link and look at that about the material that I like to use. Okay, so let's talk about the UCJV330. And I want to show you that the 2.5D settings in RasterLink is going to be a little bit different depending on the file type that we're using. So you'll see when you load in a TIFF and you're and you select the 2.5D texture maker in the Properties tab under Setup, then this 2.5D texture maker will come up. You don't have any selections other than the standard speed mode and level 3. You do have control over the order that it puts it down, but notice that slant is grayed out with a TIFF or your raster image. You also have a selection with this when you're working with a TIFF, whether you're going to click Enable the histogram equalization selection. What this is really going to do is this is going to smash out your gray gamut. So be careful and test whether you like using that histogram or not. It is going to change the contrast of your grayscale images, and you really kind of don't know what you're going to expect. So what I like to do is change that and make sure I'm putting that in my workflow, in my artwork, which we'll show you in a little bit. Okay, so when you're loading this file, which is the PDF, into the UCJV330, you'll see some different selections come up. And you'll notice that now slant is turned on and can be changed. And you can test the results. This is what this is doing, is it's telling the software how you want the edges of your builds to look and what type of slant that you'd like to have it on. So you can select that. Again, your level is stuck at 3, but you can decide the order as well. And you will get different looks to selecting that order or not, whether it's going to start building the darkest areas on the bottom and then build the lighter layers, or if it's going to do the opposite, where it starts with the lighter areas of your artwork on the bottom, and then it builds to where the darkest parts of your image, it will be on the top. Notice that histogram, that selection is gone. Also, the profile that you have, like I said, please make sure that you can, that these match. And you will see that these are the two profiles that are available for the UCJV330 for the 2.5D texture. You've got the resolution of 12 by 18, and you have the resolution of 12 by 12. And sometimes you can change the pass count to increase the pass count. It will slow down the print, but it will increase the thickness of the ink. Another machine that we have here at Mimaki has the ability to do the 2.5D is, of course, our new JFX 200 1213EX and our older model of the JFX 200 2513. Again, we are resolution and profile specific on these flatbeds. Okay, you're going to have the option on the flatbeds to be able to build two different ways. One, using the high speed build. What it does is it builds with color and white simultaneously. The smaller UJFs will use just a mix of 4 color, depending on your ink configuration. But this high speed, it does build a lot faster than what the standard mode does. Standard mode, if you select standard mode in the 2.5D selection, then it is going to build it with clear matte ink, and then it will come back and you can put your color. You are limited by a 600 by 900 profile on these machines. But a great thing about having a flatbed is that you can combine white and clear gloss layers to this composition of and get some of the amazing results that Christine is able to with these files. The material that you're going to use, please check the adhesion of the flat materials that you are going to use. Again, thicker materials, you don't want to go like an 020 poly with this, but a thicker material is suggested because of how much ink this is going to put down. Okay, so let's talk about the JFX 200 1213 or the regular 2513. Manual's up at the top. Clear ink printing guide is down at the bottom. Remember, clear ink also is going to be resolution and profile specific. So that will be in the clear ink printing guide at the bottom. And then these flatbeds also do have their own 2.5D texture maker guide PDF that is down at the bottom. Again, your settings that you can select are going to change depending on your file type. This one is showing you what a TIFF selection is going to be. Notice that we have selected the high speed mode. Notice that once again, the slant is grayed out, but you can change the level. You can go all the way up to 5, and you can see that RasterLink is going to give you an approximate value of what your highest ink is going to be. Please watch that number because you might have to increase your head height on the JFX 200s or the other flatbeds if you're building up a lot of ink at one time. Also remember the different types of ink that we have build differently, meaning that the LH100 ink, because it's a thicker ink, is going to build faster and higher than the 120 ink. When you're doing standard mode with a TIFF, notice also that the slant is still grayed out. But this is what is going to use for the clear ink, like I said before, and I really like the quality of this. So keep this in mind, and then you can look at the different levels and the appearance of the order that it's going to lay down the ink in. Here it is with the high speed settings when you load in a PDF. When you load in a PDF with whether you use standard mode or high speed, now you can select the slant. And the slant does kind of change the look of your prints. So please keep that in mind and do some testing to see what kind of slant looks better to you. Same things in standard mode when we're using clear ink. Now you can have the selection of the slant and change the level. Okay, so let's watch a little bit of the JFX 200 printing. You can see that James Hughes, thank you, James, for giving us this video, is actually finishing off these prints with a clear gloss layer. Here on the right-hand side, you can see that on this set of video, it's actually finishing it off after it has put down a white layer. Look at that texture. I'm just so excited and really love these files, Christine, and I can't wait for you guys to get these files and make some of these prints yourself. Okay, so let's talk about the biggest machine that can do the 2.5D, which we love. This is the newest version of the JFX 600 2531 double table, but we also have the JFX 600 2513 as well. This machine also has the capability of doing 2.5D. You can do it as well as the high-speed mode and standard mode. You're going to be able to do it in 600 by 600 or the 600 by 1200 profiles. If you do not know how to add these profiles needed for 2.5D, please go ahead and look in the files that I provided. There is a PDF in there with a step-by-step explanation on how to add profiles to your RasterLink. Oh, let's watch the JFX 600 print. You can see that it's coming over and laying down its white layer in this video. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the UJF models that can do 2.5D. I have a surprise for you with Christine at the end of this to let you guys know that we have a great, I guess Christine found a great trick with the 6042 that I'm excited to be able to show you guys. So if you do have a UJF model, um, please make sure that you stay tuned because we're going to show you a really cool trick with this 6042. But the UJF 71 does again have that ability to do the 2.5D prints. You're going to have a 600 by 900 profile on this. And because it's a flatbed, you can combine white and clear gloss or clear matte layers to your composition. Again, be sure on the materials that you're doing adhesion testing. Okay, so one thing that a lot of people look past is sometimes when you are saving out stuff that is grayscale, um, your preferences in Illustrator might be changing your artwork when you push print and you might not even know it. So I want you guys to go to Illustrator and make sure you're checking your preferences in the area of where it says appearance of black. I think that Illustrator defaults when you're printing or exporting, it usually defaults to display all blacks or output all blacks as rich black. This can be a problem, especially with our 2.5D, but sometimes it can also be a problem when you're printing and maybe you just want your black text to just be black ink. If you have your Illustrator preference settings set to where when you print it outputs the blacks as rich black, what happens is it's going to use a CMYK mix and your blacks won't be 100% black. Your black will actually be in the 90 area. So it's always good to go back to your Illustrator preferences and see what your Illustrator program is set for. Another trick, I'll show you guys a little bit more in Illustrator later, but if you didn't know, you can easily convert stuff in Illustrator to grayscale in the edit selection. So you can go edit and then edit colors and convert to grayscale, and then you can ensure that your artwork is in grayscale. So almost everything that you select will be converted to grayscale. Um, so you're sure that it'll be done properly. But sometimes if you're using like an editable text or something that has a lot of effects built into it, sometimes those things will not convert over to grayscale properly. And I'll show you a trick in a little bit how to find that in the Appearance tab. So if your 2.5D file is not grayscale, you're going to get an unexpected printing result. Also want to point out that the Illustrator PDF save settings are important. Please don't do any compression. I like using the Illustrator default. And please do not use the high quality print. Usually what that does is the high quality print will usually break it up in a whole bunch of little squares. Also, if your document has bleed settings on them, please turn that off because it will affect your artboard size. So the material that me and Christine have tested and we really like to use, and if you guys want some of a sample for this print, please reach out to AMCAD and they can get you some samples. But what we have been using is Palboard from PalRam. And I'd like to thank them right now for sponsoring this class and helping us with some material for our prints. Once again, we're here for you. And thank you for watching the presentation. And so I'm going to take a 2-minute break, and then we're going to start and go into Photoshop and Illustrator. And then we'll go into, um, sorry, RasterLink. Okay, let's get this. Hey, Christine, can you see my Photoshop now?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you got this. It's obviously AI. So tell us about your journey with AI. A lot of people on the call might be a little intimidated by AI. What's your prompt secret, Christine?
A lot of the times I actually, if I go into AI and I have an image that I've seen in the past or I like or whatever, I usually upload that and I say, can you create something like this, but I want pink flowers in the background or, you know, fighting Japanese dragon, stuff like that. I don't really, and it depends on the more and more you get into it, the more and more you'll understand, what to type in or what you're looking for. Most of the time I just start with images and then I'll upload those and say, hey, create something similar to this with
Oh,
fire
okay. So it
photos.
kind of follows the same style of the image that you're loading in. It'll kind of follow the same style. It'll kind of know where it is. So which one is your favorite AI that you're messing with? Which one's a favorite? Everybody's talking about so many different ones. Do you
I
use
use
just one or is there several one?
I use GPT.
You do.
Yes.
Are you paying?
So
Are you is it the paid one or are you using the free
yes.
one?
No, I pay
Okay,
it.
so you are paying. So
Yes.
it does give you a little bit of difference, right? Of what it can do and the resolutions that it allows you to do, right? The upscaling
Yes.
and a paid
Yeah, and then you
account, I
can.
believe so too. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, on that note, guys, if you're using AI, and you're wanting to print it, you are going to have to upscale it, right, Christine? Tell them a little bit about the upscaling AI that needs to be done to get a print quality artwork.
Well, I downloaded this one from GPT and it's huge.
You
So
didn't have to
no, I didn't
you
have
didn't
to.
have to upscale the file?
Nope.
Okay, well maybe it's because you paid for it. I always have to just so y'all know, I use actually I've tested a few of the AI ones. I like using the one that comes with my free pick cheap one, but of course it's not as good as what ChatGPT is. Um, there's really a lot of them out there. Grok does some good ones, but it doesn't there's not really a good upscaling one in there that I've seen as far as the free version goes,
Mhm.
but it doesn't do too bad. So guys, if you're not using AI, it actually can be quite helpful.
Yeah, it's the prompts that you have to. Okay. I'm not an expert on that. That's why I just upload the images and say, can you do this? And then, it'll give me a picture and then I'll say, wait, no, I want red hair and green eyes. And then so it kind of just, until I get what I want.
Okay, well, I love that
It's
print that
trial
you
and
held up a while
error.
ago. I love that print that you held up a while ago. So we're going to, in a minute after we're presenting all of this, we'll show that and some of the other ones that you've done, so that everybody can see it, so I can spotlight you. But you guys, the
I
stuff
don't,
that she is getting, it's just amazing. So that's why thank you for joining us. Okay, so this is kind of what me and her wanted to show you. So we started off with this, right? This is what we started off with, and she saved it out as a TIFF, and then we went to work on our grayscale levels, right? Okay,
mhm,
so let's look at what it's going to look like if we just take this color and I take it to a new layer, and I'm going to change it to grayscale. So I'm going to take the mode. And I'm going to go to grayscale. Okay, so that's what it looks like in grayscale. But this is the texture layer that you had. So kind of walk us through what you did and how is it when you first look at these files and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I know I kind of want where my texture is going to be. How do you know, or what is it that you're looking at in a file to know a file is going to get good texture like the stuff you're getting, Christine?
Um, it's kind of like sculpting, actually. You when we convert this to grayscale, you know, the way that I work in PDFs, so I'm working with the blacks. So the darker the black, the higher the texture. So right there. So when I actually go into that and when I convert it, I work with a whole bunch of like settings in Photoshop, the levels, the exposure, your
And so
your
sometimes you
curves, your
invert
bright.
it. Yeah, okay. So sometimes you're taking the color and then you're looking at whether, okay, I'm going to invert it and see where my blacks are, right? And your whites
Yes,
are. And then
yes.
you're looking at several things, trying to see, okay, where in this file um, do I want the most black to be? Because that's where we want our high areas to be if we're working in a PDF workflow like she does. So
Yeah, and
take
if
that
you
into consideration. Yeah.
and if you have a white to a black, you're going to have a higher texture. You're going to have more depth. So, because if you start with like the background right there is white, if that was
Yes.
gray, then you're not going to have that lift. So you're going to want um, quite a bit of either whites or darks in order to get that high texture.
And not to confuse anybody any further, but make sure you guys are watching and looking back at that presentation to understand where all of this is going to go, right? Because that's the thing that I want you guys to understand is that again, with if you're going to save it out as a TIFF, the high area is going to be the white areas in your file. If you're going to save it out as a PDF, it's going to follow the black. Okay, I just wanted to make that again. Okay, so like she's talking about, there's other things that you can do in Photoshop to, pull out different parts or make things more black. So I wanted to show you some, things like that. Okay, like she was talking about levels, Control L. Sorry, I don't really, let's see. All right, so levels
Yeah, Control L.
also. Oh yeah, I know it's for some reason it's hating on me right now. It's not letting me. You can do levels, but then you can also I don't know whether you do this, but I really like using this burn tool and this
Mhm.
dodge tool. Do you use this very
Yes.
often? Let me show you guys what this burn tool does. This burn tool allows you to go in and watch up here where you can change your midtones, your shadows, your highlights, and then what the intensity is going to be. So we're going to look at this. We're going to set it to midtones, and you see that little area in there where it has those little fleur-de-lis. Let's look at what that does. See how that will increase, because maybe we want that to be a little bit higher, right? So that's what she's talking about for you to be able to have the ability to change parts of the image without having to change the whole thing, like when you do on levels. Oh, there's my levels. Thank you. Okay, so here's
Mm.
levels. And so here's your channel. So you can go into your black channel with your grayscale images, then you can definitely just move that. But watch what it actually does when you're changing your levels out. Be careful when you're doing this. Sometimes you can lose the detail in your file and in your textures. So, but I did want you guys to kind of look so you can take the black out overall, or you can add stuff to the background. So make sure everybody is kind of taking that into consideration that you can change it with your levels. Not only can you change it with your levels, but you can also go in here and just, your color balance, what else are you using? You're also going to use your hue and saturation sometimes,
Yeah,
your
I use
shadows and
brightness and
highlights.
contrast.
Yeah, your
Yeah,
brightness and contrast.
it
Mm-hmm.
depends on the image itself. I mean, you just gotta play around with them and see which one works better.
Hear that, guys? Just play around with it. That's why we're giving you these guys your files. And just so you know, when you first open your shadow and highlights, you'll have to select the show more options to be able to really get down in and change some of the midtones and the adjustments. Um, and what these things do. But if you don't know and you don't ever know where these are and go around and play with them, it really does help. I mean, it also helps to increase some of your color on your color layers as well, right? Do you use some of it to change some of the vibrancy that you're seeing, or is this vibrant from the AI?
No, this one's actually, I took saturation, and you go up into the saturation levels, and I bring the saturation up quite high.
Okay, well, thanks. We didn't really want to give you guys all of the stuff for Photoshop, but we do wanted to show you a few of the tips and tricks to be able to change some of your images with Photoshop, and then decide whether you're going to save this out as a TIFF or if you're going to save this out as a PDF. So when you're saving out your PDF because you work in a PDF workflow, Christine, do you
Mhm.
save it from here as a PDF? Or do you save it as a tip and then place it into Illustrator? Let's go over here to Illustrator. Or do you place it into Illustrator? How do you do
Um,
that?
Everything is saved out as a PDF.
Okay. So you're saving it as a PDF from Photoshop and you're never really bringing it into Illustrator.
No, if I want to do a layout, yes, then I will bring it into Illustrator and then
And then,
save it out as
okay.
PDF.
Okay, so that's probably important, just so we're clear. Okay, so this is another one of the files that she gave you for you to look at, and I wanted to bring this PDF into Illustrator because let's talk about, okay, what are we going to do, right? We have this image that we want to do, but I want to add somebody's name to it, right? What if I want to add this vector name to it? I don't know if you like it, but I'm in love with these new editable text stuff that you can get on some of the stuff. Are you using this a
Hmm.
little bit? Are you seeing it a lot? If you guys don't know about it, there's a whole bunch of these text effects that you can find that are live and you can change it. And that's one of the ones that I'm using right now. But this is also one of the ones that when you try to go and you change it to grayscale, some of the stuff does not change the where you want it, right? Because as we know, with a PDF, it's going to follow our black, right? Well, there's not a lot of black in this. So, like I said, we like working in layers. So here's the layers. Here's our color layer. We've got Misty's name on it. Well, but what do we do to make sure that our color layer is correct? So I wanted to show you guys that, okay, so what I did is I made this as grayscale like I did earlier. But when you're doing something that has a lot of effects on it, like this text, to change what it is and the colors inside of it, please go to your Appearance tab. You will be able to look at the appearances of what it is and turning it on and off as to where it is. And then you can go in and change the color of it or change it to this black. This here on the screen, we know where it says white and black, that is going to be 100% black. If you go in here and you select something down here, it's not going to be true black. So you can just select it here, and then we know that this layer is going to stay grayscale. If you are having a question about it, again, select everything, go to edit, go to edit colors, convert to grayscale, and you'll be able to tell that that is grayscale. You can also select the image in the background and come up here at the top, and you can kind of see that it's a transparent grayscale embedded image into this PDF. So then, right? So now we have our color layer. We have our black and white grayscale layer. And then what we're going to do is save out both of these files and bring them into RasterLink. Okay, so I think we're ready to go to RasterLink. Are you ready, Christine? Do you want to tell them anything that about Illustrator, what you're doing? Because I do know that some of the stuff you have done, you showed me a coin that you did. Tell us about the way that you're using 2.5D on some of the products and how you're using Illustrator.
We actually didn't have that. We've been doing it like on boxes and tins, and we have a customer that actually sells coins, and they've been can't see it. Been doing some samples and stuff for them to do the 2.5D on their as specialty coins. So you can do them for, earrings, and that's why I like the 6042, because we've been working on that, a lot of the smaller stuff, and we can do earrings, jewelry, if that's what you're asking me.
Yes, that's kind of what I was wanting to know is kind of what applications are you seeing? What, um, because everybody would love something like this, and I too, I believe that adding this 2.5D texture really increases how cool the product is, but also how much our customers can charge, for doing this, right? Don't you think?
Oh yeah, the keychains. I haven't tried on cups yet. I'm actually want to try that, and see if we can do some stuff on some curved substrates.
All right. Okay, all right. See, challenge accepted. Maybe we'll do something like that on the we'll do a high-speed kebab soon. We'll see if we can get some texture. But understand, as we all know, we're showing you the 2.5D texture capabilities on the machines, but most of you know that you still can build texture in different ways, other than using the 2.5D by doing overprints. And I know that you've also worked in that workflow too, Christine, right? So let's talk about the files that she is giving you guys because, all right, so here's the files that you're going to get. Okay, so you're going to get the dragon file, you're going to get the layered file. For those of you that have the UCJV330 and you're going to do roll to roll, you might not be able to use some of her files that she has named as clear. Um, but I did want you guys to know that, some of the files that she has here, she's going to give you what you're going to build with the 2.5D, right, Christine? You're going to do the 2.5D layer.
Mhm.
And then she's going to give you the 4-color process. That's what 4CP looks like. It's the 4-color process file. We're going to give it to you in a PDF and we're going to give it to you in a TIFF. Notice also I'm giving you a TIFF that has already been inverted, and then she's giving you a TIFF that is not inverted. So that way you can load both of them in and put the 2.5D on there and look at the different results depending on the file type. Again, she also gave you a really cool clear where she's laying down clear differently. Um, so these are print ready. Throw them in your Illustrator or add stuff to them, or just throw them into your RasterLink and do some testing on your own and see what you can do with these files. Again, what I was talking about, how to install the profiles, it'll have something in there for you. We're not going to really go over all the different ways that we can do layered printing. We have some really great videos out there on our YouTube channel already and some educational videos about layered printing. So if you want to go a little bit more into that, you can definitely do it. But I also gave you this really cool vector file that I created that shows you a little bit of differences in opacities and stuff. And I used this on my 2.5D the other day to kind of do it. And I really do love that. Okay, same thing with the white dragon. We've given it to you inverted. We've given it to you not inverted. We've got the 2.5D layer, your color process, and then the clear. And also notice that you put these templates in there. Can you tell them a little bit? Because this is another good question. Okay, I have this file and I noticed that you have this template, and I think you're using that template for placement on the printer.
Yes.
Tell me about that template file.
I actually, is that just the one-up one? Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, it's
so
just the one. Yeah.
it's just so that I know exactly where on the bed it's going to print. So if I have already a pre-cut piece, or say you're printing on a block of wood, or you're printing on something that is already a specific size, you want to make a template so that you know exactly where your print is going to end up on that piece, so that you don't screw it up, or you get like an even border. Like that one, I actually had I don't know where my squares are. Like these. If you want your border to be even all the way around, and you're just printing your 2D in the middle of it, that's why I use a template, so I know exactly where the ink is going to lay down.
Well, they just told me I didn't add these templates, and I'm sorry because I guess I didn't realize how important they were. We can send them to you, but really what it looks like to me is you've just taken the artboard and put a 1 point stroke black stroke on it, right?
Yeah,
And
and
then are you changing that to white? Or what are you like going to print this on a piece of paper? That way
I
you know the
usually
placement of where it's going to go.
yeah, I usually, like, if you put like cardstock on the bed, or pre-mask, or any of that kind of stuff, then you can just print your template on there, or you can use that and cut it out of like a sheet of PVC or whatever, so that you can actually just set your piece inside that, so that it doesn't move too. So you can use that to cut that out if you have a way of cutting, like we have with the
And this,
Apex.
yeah, and this would also be really good to be able to double check, like again, guys, you can use your jig print function on this, right?
Hmm.
And then this is something that you can, print out, use this template in that jig print. It's the same artboard size as your artwork, and then that way it kind of helps exactly where it's does. Me and Christine like doing this also with odd shapes, right? So if it's
Yeah.
something that's not square necessarily. I know you guys, because y'all have all those really cool cutters over there that y'all always help me with. Um, you do that with the shapes as well, right? That you'll do
Yes.
the same thing and set up a template file like this and put the outline of that shape that we're using for the cut line to be able to put it on, right? Right?
Yes. Yeah, and especially if you have like a circle too, those are really hard to, like, line up. So you're going to want a template to place your circle in.
So I hope that helps you guys. Just because you need to do 10 of these doesn't mean you have to send over a file that is, 10 of these big files, especially if they can, sometimes that can be really hard to chomp or for them to rip out, depending on how much RAM they have. This allows you to just still stay in that one up format and be able to increase your production by using this template or using the jig print function. Again, in some of our previous videos, it goes over how to set up jig print for the UJFs and the other flatbeds. Okay, so we know how, kind of what this is. Also, I added a few ICC profiles in there if you would like to add the Grockle color space to RasterLink. That's also in that how to install profiles PDF that will also tell you how to add in those ICC profiles. And it goes over color as well. We're not going to get into a whole lot of color, but make sure when you're doing 2.5D, we are staying in the CMYK color space. Oh, and I noticed that you're not really saving out any of the profiles with your files either, right? You're not saving out the, um, again, I'll show them what I'm
No, I
talking
just do
about.
like defaults.
So you do use the defaults. And what
Mm-hmm.
she's talking about is this. Go back and watch that other RasterLink video, and Joel Thomas will talk to you a little bit more about this area right here, which is in the output. Do you see how Illustrator default, it does not add any of your color inclusion policy right there? It says don't include profiles. That's what it's talking about when it's talking about ICC profiles, right? I gave
Mm-hmm.
you some extra ICC profiles that you can load into your Illustrator and Photoshop, and you can load into your RasterLink to control your files. But if you're saving something out and you want to use that profile, make sure you go in here to your save settings for Adobe and include those profiles, and it'll show you which ones it's going to include or don't include. It's going to be up to you. But I sometimes do. It depends on what I'm printing. But I suggest that when you're saving out your grayscale, please do not include that profile. Or I guess you can. You can test it, right? But I don't.
Right.
Okay. We're not, we don't know the perfect ways to do this, guys. This is, we've just been testing and playing with it. And Christine's got some of the best results that I've seen. So that's why we have her on here today. All right. Okay, so
Marissa,
let's go. Yeah,
could you real quick go over, we just had a question in the chat. Can you go over the
sure.
save settings for the TIFFs in Photoshop?
Yep, I sure can. Okay, so here, luckily I didn't close this out yet. Okay, so here it is right here. Okay, so we're gonna save this out, and if you're gonna save it out as a TIFF file, here it is once again here. Do you want to add your ICC profile to that file or not? It's gonna be up to you. You're going to have different save settings depending on whether you're saving out a layered file, a colored file, or a grayscale file, and I'll show you that now. So you're going to push save. Sure, I'm gonna replace it. Then this comes up. I don't ever use any image compression. Do you, Christine?
Nope.
Nope. Some, depends on what software you're using, right? Maybe you're not using Photoshop. Maybe you're using something else, right? It's up to you, right? Okay. So this is what we like. And it will automatically save out your transparencies too if you don't have a bottom layers. But I do like saving this out. Then of course it's going to keep your layers. Okay, Christina, but I think that you are like I am, where I'm going to save a layered file like this, but then I'm going to save out my files that I'm sending over to RasterLink as a non-layered file. What do you
Correct.
do? Because what
Yeah,
I do is I save out my color file and I delete all the layers but my color file and then save out that TIFF. And then if my grayscale layer, when I'm ready to save that out, I'm gonna delete all of my layers except for the color, the grayscale file, and then I save that out as its own separate layer. Do you do it
yeah.
a different way?
No, I do it that way too, because the more layers, the larger the file. So, if you're already gonna hide them and you're not gonna see them, you might as well just save them out
Might as well
separately.
delete it. Right, might as well
It
delete it. That's how I
rips
feel as
faster,
well.
and yeah, it rips faster for sure.
Okay, do you want to keep it transparent or do you not want to keep it transparent if you have transparent edges? So let's delete this out and then and I'd love to hear what Christine thinks about it because I think we might have a different take on it. Okay, so when we're talking about transparencies in Photoshop, you'll see that this one actually has a transparency because you see the little squares in the background. So when you go to save out your grayscale image, you're going to take it this way, and me and her will talk about transparencies in a minute. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to image mode, change it to grayscale. This is what I do. And then making sure that it's just grayscale up here. And then I'm going to save it out. And then let's put a little thing. We did a little bit of testing on whether you're going to add this dot gain or not. And you're only going to see this in a grayscale file. And sometimes when you open somebody else's file, or if you open a PDF that is grayscale into Photoshop, or you go to open one of these, sometimes you'll see when you go to open it, it'll ask you, do you want to put a dot gain to it? Joel, you're going to have to explain to us a little bit more about that dot gain in a little bit. But I usually don't have it selected. Maybe Joel's going to tell us that we should have it selected, but I usually don't. And then I put something in my file name about the fact that this is my gray, or you can put it as like she did, where it's, your 2.5D. Put something in the name on your file so that you understand which layer it is, so that when you're composing them together, it gives you an idea of what layer you're working on. Is that about what you do?
Mhm.
So then I push save. Again, you're going to have the, transparency finally came up here, right? Again, because when you're saving something out that has those little gray squares to it, that means there's transparency. And Tiff is going to ask you, do you want to save out your transparency or not? I always say yes. It's going to say, hey, it's going to make your file bigger. And I'm going to say yes. And then me and Christine are going to say, all right. Do you save your transparency, Christine, or do you not?
No. I
I
just leave it
usually
blank.
do. I usually do. And the reason why I do, let's see if I can open this file. And this is kind of why I gave this file to you guys. Okay, I'm going to open this up. Okay, so here's the transparency. So this is a PDF and you can look at it. And the reason why I wanted to show you this is because I'm seeing different results in how smooth my gradients are, whether I'm using 2.5D or whether I'm using monocolor replacement. You can use this file for both of this. I'm seeing difference if I actually have transparency in my file. That's why I did this one, and you'll see that my gradient here in the middle is actually black at 100% opacity over here. And then my white I have set at 0% opacity. And then this top gradient that you see up here, it's going to be 100% black on the right and then 100% white on the on our left-hand side, but I've left that opacity at 100. So you guys print this file. Go set it to monocolor and print it and test it, and you can see how you can get kind of smoother results using transparency than when you don't use transparency. So you guys can decide, but it'll depend up to you. So maybe we've taken this and we're going to make part of these areas transparent, or we're going to add shadows or stuff like that that still have that transparency on them. You'll see a difference in what you're going to look at and how smooth some of your files are. If you just play with the transparencies, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Okay. Okay, is there any other questions about Photoshop or Illustrator that we can get to before we move on to RasterLink? I know y'all probably have a lot, and sorry, I could go on for days about Illustrator and Photoshop.
Is that white file that you just showed also in the folder, Carissa? Or is that something that we need
It
to
is.
add?
It is.
Someone is
It should be in the folder.
saying that it's not. So, okay, we'll just double
Oh,
check.
let's see, which one? This,
The one with transparencies?
yeah, I'm gonna load it into the chat.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, I'm looking through the meeting chat really quick. We're gonna look over, see if I got, high points. I don't understand that. Yeah, it means that the top of your texture after you print, right? The highest point of your print. Let's see. I'm going to spotlight myself really quick. Can you see this? Can y'all see that? Am I spotlighted or do I need to fix it?
There we go.
Okay. I wish you guys could see. This is another file from Christine. I wish you guys could really see how thick it is. So the high spot. So see how that those letters are really raised. So if you're dealing with a PDF, the part you want it most raised, you want it to be black. If you're working with a TIFF workflow, you want it to be white. Not to make it more confusing. Okay. Okay, so everybody ready to go to RasterLink? Are we on schedule? Sorry if I'm long-winded. Okay, so here's RasterLink, and as we know, RasterLink can you can use 4 different machines on RasterLink at one time. And so I have 4 different machines loaded on RasterLink with all of the files that we're providing to you in those folders to you so that I can show you kind of how this goes. Hold on, I don't want to spotlight. I'm going to exit Spotlight. I'm sorry. That was my bad. Okay, we back to RasterLink now? Everybody can see me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, so notice we have the UCJV330, we have the 600, we have the 21213, and at the end of class, we're going to show you a trick about the 6042 because you can do 2.5D on that as well. And Christine found out how to do it, and I can't wait for her to explain it to you guys. Okay. Okay, so UCJV330, it is going to work differently than the flatbeds. That's why I wanted to make sure you guys saw this and we went over it. So the UCJV 330 is the only one that has the ability to do the 2.5D textures. The old 300s does not have the ability to do it. So if you need an upgrade and you want to be able to add some of this texture, go ahead and upgrade to the UCJB 330 and AMCAD, or any of our dealers can sell you one. Okay, again, I have loaded in my TIFF files and I have loaded in my PDFs. So let's make these a little bit bigger so that I can show you in RasterLink how it treats it differently. So when you change it to the 2.5D, it's going to change the profile. So you can either do it 2 ways. You can, well, 3 or 4 ways. Actually, you can create a favorite where every time you drop it in, it's going to automatically put the 2.5D profile on there if you want. Or you can go over here to the quality section. Again, if you don't have this profile, you can download it. And then you can select here in print quality under media 2.5D. And you can see that you only have the standard mode here. In the flatbeds, you'll see another option where you can have standard or full color. High speed, which will print in 4 color. So because this is just standard, remember this is going to use clear matte ink on the UCJB 330 when printing the 2.5D. Just because I've changed this profile to 2.5D doesn't necessarily mean the machine knows that that's what we're going to print yet. I'll show you that, and it's done in the Properties tab. But another thing I want to show you here in the Print Quality tab is you do have the ability to increase your pass counts. If you're going to increase your pass count using the UCJV 330, make sure that your color layer and your 2.5D texture layer, your resolutions match, and your pass counts match so that they can print simultaneously. Okay, so we have set the 1200 by 1200 profile on there. Now we are ready to set this using the 2.5D profile and feature. How about that? The feature. See here in the job attributes that we can change this to monocolor. Again, something to be able to control our whites. And then here it is here on the 2.5D texture maker, you can select, and then as we've seen before, these are the standard speed mode settings that you can do with the TIFF. Slant's gone, change the order. I'm going to unclick my histogram. I'm going to push OK. Once you make the selection and you change your job attributes, you will see that your artwork will turn green and your attributes here are going to show you what it is. Notice that the green areas of where it chose that. So I'm going to show you again with this TIFF on our inverted dragon. 2.5D, have my setting. I'm going to push OK. I liked the histogram on this one really, so I did, again, test it for yourself, see what you get. If you get better results, let us know. Post pictures, add us on Instagram, post us pictures, right, Christine? We'd love to see what they get from the files that we're sharing. So, hey, follow us on social media so that we can see. Okay, so we have the 2.5D. We have inverted it. We have our color. We're going to make sure both of them are the same resolution, which right now that is not. So right here, we have the 1200 by 1200. I'm going to select my color. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to pick a resolution of 1200 by 1200. I'm going to make sure it's not that. Maybe let's use a transparency. No, let's not. Remember, PVC transparent or any transparent profiles will be ink heavy. And because of how much ink we're laying down in the clear process, can sometimes give you varied results where your color looks a little too saturated. Remember, the transparent profiles are going to be saturated because they're expecting that you're going to backlight that. So I really like just using a PVC gloss media profile. And then, as you know, I don't have a lot of profiles loaded right now for this, but there's a lot of different ones out there. If you can't find the material that you are actually using, please go ahead and use one of our generic PVC profiles. You have one that you specifically use, Christine, that you like? Do you use the transparency profiles sometimes? Because it kind of seems like some of the transparency profiles are a little different on roll to roll and a little more saturated on the roll to roll than they are on some of the transparent profiles on the flatbeds. What do you think?
Yes.
Do you just use Jerry? Right. Anyway, there's some generic ones out there that work good too, right? There's generic ones, but if again, if you have any color profile questions and you really, hey, I need to understand profiles better, let us know. We have color profile classes, and hey, maybe that's something you guys can put in that thing. Do you guys want a color, another specific color, class? We'll see. Okay, so let's go back. Sorry, I got squirreled. All right, so that's 1200 by 1200. We're making sure my resolution and my pass count match. So 1200 by 1200, 16 passes. This one's 1200 by 1200, 16 passes. So I'm going to select both of these together, go back over to composition. I'm going to bring my texture down onto the bottom. I'm going to push composite. And now these are going to print simultaneously. I know this print order says 1, 2. Trust me, it is going to print simultaneously. If it does not, you can kind of see when you go to send it to RIP that both of them will print at the same time and the progress will go together. And that way you know that it is printing. the machine, the machine does delay in its print start because of how many layers that you sent over to it. So if it, after you send it and it shows in the progress that it has already started printing, don't get impatient. The machine's going to do its little dance and it will eventually start printing. It might take up to 3 minutes depending on the RAM that you have on your RIP system. Remember, always, guys, if files are taking a long time to rip, might be time to upgrade that computer or add RAM to it. Okay. Okay, so I feel like we're pretty good on the roll to roll as far as the UCJV330. Anybody else have questions on the UCJV330? If not, I'm going to move on to the JFX 600. Okay, the JFX 600, same thing. So let's look on the last one. We were talking about the TIFFs. Let's look how the files of the PDF are going to change a little bit. All right, so I'm going to select the PDF. Same thing. I'm going to look at the 2.5D texture maker. And look, there's our slants. Now we can change it. And over here on the left, you can change standard mode, just using clear. High speed mode, it is going to use, depending on ink set, it is going to use a mixture of CMYK and sometimes white to build this a lot faster. You'll be very impressed. Also, know that the higher you go, especially if you're printing using the CMYK high speed mode, sometimes you can see that black edge, right, Christine?
Yes.
Yeah. That's why we love our flatbeds, because sometimes after you get your 2.5D stuff set up, then you can go and add a white layer or a clear gloss layer to make more effects, or to go ahead and close in those edges of the high speed build layer so that you're not seeing the edges. But sometimes it looks cool. So it's up to you guys whether you want to add that or not. So let's look over here to the JFX 200, and that's exactly what I have done with this file here. So let's look at the 200, and I think this is kind of how you set up your file on your 6042, right, Christine, where you had your 2.5D texture layer, you laid down a white layer, and then you came back with your color layer, and then you came back with your clear gloss.
Correct.
Is that what you did, or did you?
Yep.
Yes? Okay, that's what it looked like to me. So that's what I love about the flatbed, right? But don't send these over individually. Make sure you go in and you are compositing these together. I might have the world record on compositions. I have composed 16 layers together at one time. I don't know if a lot of people have done that, but I haven't found, just make sure you're doing that. And before you go and print 30 of these, make sure that first one you're double checking to make sure everything's aligning properly. Because if you don't pay attention to your artboard or your file sizes, and these file sizes change, you can see that over here. See where it shows you the page size and your properties? Make sure that this page size matches this page size. You want your grayscale page size to be the exact same page size that you're getting with both your color and that. And that's why I was saying that I didn't like exporting a TIFF out of Illustrator, because it did change my page size. And it was really weird. It depended on the artwork. So I got unexpected results. So that's why I'm saying, please, guys, if you're using anything other than a PDF or a TIFF workflow, always do tests. And before you print 15 copies, let's print that one copy and do a proof. Okay. All right. I don't know how much longer we have, but I'm not going to keep you guys very much longer. Let's go into the big news of the day, which is something that was shocking to me from Christine, because when I first saw the prints that she's sent over to me, I was like, how are you doing this? That you have a 6042. How are you doing this, Christine? Because I heard, or I don't see a 2.5D profile for the 6042. And she showed and told me about a trick. So kind of talk about that, Christine. Tell us what profile did you use and how did you even figure out that the 6042 had the ability to do 2.5D?
Well, I think I chose Braille because that was the only profile that was up there that we could do, we use.
Yes.
And then it actually
Yes.
brought underneath the job attributes, it showed 2.5D. So I'm like, all right, well, let's try it.
And she tried it and I'll be dang, it did work. Okay, so all of the other machines, you're going to download the 2.5D profiles to use. On this one, what I want you to do is go and download the Braille profiles. And you'll see on the 6042, there's going to be two Braille profiles. You're going to have standard and you're going to have highest speed, right? And it's going to do the same thing as before. So, and it's going to build the same way. So once you set it in standard or, the Braille, then if you go over to job attributes, look at that, the 2.5D texture maker comes up. And Christine showed me this, and I was like, what is going on? I did not even know that this could happen. So, guys, if you have a UJF and a 6042, know that now you too can print using the 2.5D texture maker, but you have to use the Braille profiles to do so. But other than that, everything else looks the same. And Christine is getting amazing results, like always, from our flatbeds. So Christine, I want to say thank you for even teaching me something and showing me something that our feature that our machines have that Japan added that I was not even aware of. And that's what the great thing about events like this is so we can educate each other, learn from each other, and then help our everybody else to learn the new things as well. Okay.
Hey.
I know. Okay. That was a lot, guys. I know it was a lot. Let's go ahead and wrap up. We'll start taking question and answers in a second. Um, give me about 5 minutes. I'm going to stop sharing. Give me about 5 minutes, and then I will. No, let's not take a break. Are y'all ready? Do we need a break? Let's just get through the question and answers. I'm going to go ahead. Mac, can you go ahead or do I need to open up everybody's microphones, or can you raise your hand? See at the top of the screen, you'll see a little hand that says raise. You can raise your hand and we will try to get you in
Yeah,
there.
I can unmute people that raise their hand.
Okay, great. It looks
So,
like Michael
Michael-
Hartman. Mm-hmm.
You should be able to unmute yourself now. Awesome.
Yep, cool. So sorry if I didn't follow along. Do we have to use 1200 by 1200 in order to do these? And in Braille mode, am I using standard or high speed?
You can use
Same
either.
thing. Go ahead. Yeah, you can use either. If you go high speed, it's going to build with CMYK mixed. If you use standard, it's only going to build with clear.
I used 600 by 1200 though for the Braille.
Okay, not 600 by 600.
No, I was using the 6 by 12.
So if I'm trying to lay down a bunch of ink, is a 6 by 1200 faster to lay down a bunch of ink than a 6 by 600?
Well, if you're talking about a 6042 or any of the other machines, hold on, let me
Yeah.
share my screen again. Remember, any of the Braille profiles or the 2.5D profiles are going to be limited in the resolutions and the pass counts they can use. So you'll notice here, I'm here on the 6042. If I'm doing Braille and I have high speed, It's at 6x12. There is no other profile. There's no other
Ah,
resolution, right? See how
okay.
there's no other resolution. But if I select standard, there's 12x12 and there's no other resolution. And you're going to see the same thing with some of the other printers. That PowerPoint that is going to be in there, I go through on the PowerPoint around on each page of the machines, it's going to tell you which resolutions are available for each one of the machines. Okay,
Yeah,
where you're stuck to those resolutions.
but you didn't actually go over the 6042, which is where I was kind of lost.
I know, right? Well, we just kind of learned about it, but you're going to be restricted by the resolutions that can be used with the Braille profiles. And the Braille
Okay, so
profiles only have this. You can only use 1200 by 1200 if you're going to build with clear. And then if you're
okay,
going to build with high speed, you only have the 600 by 1200 profile and resolution available. If you go, so let's show, okay, I'm going to look in resolutions and I'm going to look at all the profiles I have available for 600 by 600. You're not going to find a Braille. Braille's
okay.
not going
Now,
to be available.
I guess the reason I'm asking all of this is I recently started doing 600 by 600 9 overprints and then times 2 to get like massive stacking. Um, so just trying to think of the fastest way to build ink. So,
The 6x12 doing that high speed is actually, it was a lot faster than just doing separate layers from my experience.
oh, so
Same
you're
as me.
saying high speed 600 by 1200 braille printing is faster than me taking a black plate, putting CMYK and then doing like 9 overprints.
Yes.
Wait,
It was, I mean, for me, I mean, of course I didn't like test 9 layers, but it's pretty fast. I mean, compared to some of the stuff that I've done in the past before Braille even came out, it used to take a long time. And with
yep.
this setting it's a lot faster.
So then would you recommend not doing too many overprints in braille, like stopping at a certain number? Because I'm guessing that the braille printing is going to one overprint is probably what 600 by 600 normal, or do you know that?
Well,
Right.
yeah, that's a whole bunch of difference. Okay, all right. First, we're gonna back up a little bit.
Yep.
Sometimes faster and laying down the most ink, you're not gonna get a good cure. So make sure you're watching that, right? Because if you're gonna lay down 100 cyan, 100 magenta, 100 yellow, 100 black, and you're going to try to build that as fast as you can, whether you're, using overprints, or maybe you're just going to print a whole bunch of, that same mix over and over again. I have found, and in the testing I've done and seen, what happens is that does not cure properly. So the Japanese engineers tested and did a whole lot of testing and had set up the high-speed Braille. So for those who don't understand what overprints does, overprints, say, like he said, he's going to put 9 overprints. That means the printer's head is going to stay in the same position, and it's going to do 9 scans and put down 9 times the amount of ink before it moves to the next step in your pass, right? Where depending on which machine it is, it depends on it does it. But the JFX 200 1213, when it's building high speed, it's going to build 3 different times. It's still going to do a little bit of overprint, but I think it uses 3 overprints, does 1 full pass, and then it does 3 sets of overprints. I hope that makes sense. And so I think the 7151 does it a little bit different. The 6042 does it a little bit different. Christine, does it stay in the same place, or does it do several passes when you're doing the high-speed printing using the 6042? Sorry, I haven't used it yet.
It just goes, you've got several different passes. Cause it builds up
Okay.
over time, cause you know, it kind of goes in or shrinks. If you could show, can you go back to the 2.5D in your, yeah, go
Oh, over here.
on the side. Yeah, under your, job attributes. Yeah, the setup.
Yeah.
So if you, the one that's clicked right now, where it's kind of stacked on top of each other, you're actually going to get more of a sharper edge on your prints. So your texture is going to have a sharper edge. If you do the one that's got the rounded, it's more of a smoother kind of spreads out. But for what he's saying, if he wants a higher, you go under your levels right there and you click 5 or 4 on this one,
Yeah.
of course. And then
Again,
that
depending
high,
on
yeah, and you want to do the high slant. That's what I do, and that's what I get the highest
Okay.
difference.
Okay, so again, she's working in the PDF workflow.
Hmm.
We are going to select the 2.5D maker. She's saying that she likes using 4 or 5, right?
Yeah,
Depends
depends
on,
on,
again, this is going to depend on ink set that you have. What ink set? So you've
120.
got 4 or 5. And then the
and the,
slant, she likes this slant. And so you're saying you don't use this order, you like this order over here.
yes, well, it depends on what you, because like for, you know, certain images, if you want more of a sharper edge on it, like between
Yeah.
this guy and the background, then I'll use that stacked one. If I want it more of a smooth gradation, like if you're doing
So if I was just doing like font or something like a simple hat patch, I would probably want the one to the left versus the one to the right.
correct. Yeah, because
Cool.
like this one was more of a scenery, and I didn't want it to be so stark, like jagged edges, so I used the smoother one on the left side.
Ah, okay. Cool. Cool. Good to know.
Okay. Thank you,
All right. I'll
Michael.
stop taking all the time. Thank you.
No, it's fine. All right.
Thanks.
Okay, Brian. Brian, did you have a question for us? Hold on, and Mech will unmute you. There you go. You can unmute yourself now, Brian.
Yeah, we just had a question. Does the head automatically rise off the gap, the head gap, as you're printing the higher levels, or no?
On the
Depends on
6042,
which machine.
I'm sorry, we have
Yeah.
the JFX 200 2513.
So the JFX 200, again, depending on your ink, which ink you're using, the 100 is going to build up
120.
faster than, okay, the 120 is not going to build up as fast. Okay, so this, what I want you to do is it depends on also, are you going for max, right? If we're going for max, we're going level 5. We're going to add a white layer. We're going to add a clear gloss layer. Maybe we're going to put 2 overprints of that clear gloss. Depends on how much you're using, okay? You don't want to go over 0.7 in your build without adding 1 point to your head gap or your measurement of your material. Does that make sense? So if I'm trying to get Braille, for instance, and I'm printing Braille on the 200, and I need my Braille to hit 0.8 in California, 0.9 in California, let's say, right? Then I'm going to add 3 points to my head gap, or I'm going to add 3 points to the measurements of the material so that I'm ensuring that it is not going to hit my head on the JFX 200, because as you know, it does not have the laser systems that the UJFs do. Thank you for bringing that up. Also on the UCJV330, please set your head height on that also to high when you're doing 2.5D.
Okay, another couple of questions. The max height, what kind of a max height can we achieve? Or should we just keep it under a certain height or thickness?
This, it's really just going to be on your testing. I've seen some crazy stuff out there that was almost 2 millimeters, right? But at some point, you're going to have to decide, okay, what's the risk of the fact that I'm throwing ink from such a high point that I am going to clog some of my nozzles because I've got a whole bunch of overspray going on, right? And the higher you get, then the more overspray you're going to have, or the less crisp your color layer is going to be as it comes back down on top of your texture build, right? So I would say I like keeping mine, since the head gap is 1.5, I like keeping mine well below that. I don't like going over 0.7 without increasing, at least a couple of points on the measurement. But, the 7151, the 6042, they have that laser guidance system on the side of it, as it comes. That's why it's also good for the high-speed braille, because it's gonna put down a layer, it's gonna come back, and then it's gonna put down a layer. When you're doing overprints, it doesn't give it the opportunity to reset that level of where your head needs to be. But using the 2.5D texture, or if you're using the Braille, because it's coming and doing several passes, then as it comes back in to do that second pass, if it's too high, the laser will pick that up and it will lower that so that you don't have to worry about your heads. But with the 200, you will have to, keep aware of the fact that you don't want to build too high. And I also have seen people that they'll print a section and then they'll reset on their 200 to the highest point and then print it again. But remember, the more overspray that you have and the higher you build, the more dangerous it is for clogging some of your nozzles on your head.
Okay, and well, one last question. I'm sorry to take more time. Let's
You're
see,
fine.
is it played automatically or to make it set the head height through the Mimaki RIP software? Is there a setting, or do I have to do it only through the display panel of the device itself?
Only on the display to the device itself, because you can use several different RIPs to to run our machines. And so we don't have it going through the RIP to be able to change the head height. Because, if you don't use RasterLink, maybe you use Onyx or you use Flexi, that those RIPs also can run the machines.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Don't be shy. We're not shy. Don't be shy. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Okay. Okay, Christine, we got through it. This was a lot. And like Mex said, this video will be loaded onto our Mimaki USA YouTube channel. What do you think, Mex? Sometime within, the next 10 days. So don't rush us, but when would you use, okay. Oh, something's going on in the chat. Let me look at the chat. Let me look. Ram, we love you. And yes, the next webinar topic I would like to do is Braille and going over the ADA standards of Braille and kind of dialing down into those profiles a little bit more too. So we'll see. If you guys have suggestions of what type of webinars that you would like to see, please comment. Go and comment on it. Go, when this is up on YouTube, make some comments about, I'd like help with this. Maybe we do a print and cut class. Oh, on favorites. Yes. I would definitely love to be able to show you guys on favorites. Also know that on the YouTube channel, on Mimaki USA YouTube channel, there is a 4-hour RasterLink class on there where me and Joel go through all of the layered printing, go through favorites, and go through most of the basics of RasterLink and the basics of the color settings of RasterLink that you can do. Can we do a webinar topic on overprints versus Braille versus 2.5D and the advantages and the disadvantages of each? Love you,
I-
Madison. Yes, maybe we can. We'll look into that, right? Okay, Christine. We've got a lot ahead of us, and I hope you join us again for one of these webinars. We've done great, and I think this is great. Okay. All right. Anybody else got anything? If not, we're going to go ahead and close it out. If you want some samples, you want to be able to see this, let us know. Okay.
Thanks, Carissa.
Thank
Nice job.
you. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us.